Is it Erjo or
Hey,
Erjo?
so it was intended to be Erjo. My parents intended it to be Erjo. It's like the Slavic pronunciation or something. But
Wow.
growing up, uh, some of my teachers couldn't say my name properly, so it kind of turned into both. So I go by both Erjo and Erjo.
Erjo.
Yeah.
So where are you from, Erjo?
So I'm originally from the
Erjo.
Philippines,
You're from the
from this
Philippines. Okay.
mountain, yeah, in the north called
Oh,
Baguio.
fantastic. So Erjo or Erjo, when did you teach in Japan? Do you want to give us some background about how long you taught or where you taught when you were an ALT?
Right. So I came to Japan actually as a JET under the JET program, the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program. I first landed there, was it August 2019
Mm.
until April 2023. So I was there for around close to 4 years. And
Mm.
I was based in Tokyo, in the Setagai area, teaching at a combined junior and senior high school called the Mita International School.
Okay. Junior and senior high. So you had both classes. You taught a lot of junior high and high.
Yeah, so depending on the year, I would sometimes be given classes in both for both junior and senior high. Towards the last few years, though, I was just strictly a teacher for the junior high school.
Okay. Oh wow. Because I taught in one school once. They had both, but I had almost zero classes in high school. And
Oh,
you
really?
and you later transitioned to just junior high. Did you say?
Yeah, yeah. So at the start, I was doing both senior and junior, and then
Mm.
during my last 2 years, they just asked me to do junior high school.
Okay. Which did you like more? Was there like? Did you like one more? Or
Yeah. They both come with their own pros and cons, I guess. I think when you have senior high students, they're a bit more disciplined, but at the
okay.
same time, much more disinterested in what you're doing and what
Yeah.
you're teaching.
Yeah.
With junior high school kids, they're a lot more, genki because they're just like fresh out of elementary
Yeah.
school,
Yeah. Yeah.
so they're much more participative. But yeah, controlling the class can be a bit of a problem sometimes. But yeah, I guess junior high school is where my heart is at.
I guess a bit more fun. The thing I had
Yeah,
at high
exactly.
school was the questions they asked, the detailed grammatical questions that just put you on the spot sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
What
Sometimes
were you-
I would sometimes not know the answers and then be like, I'll get back to you on that tomorrow. So yeah, that's it.
a really good trick I picked up was, right, that's your homework. Just said, that's an excellent question. Now tell me next time you come to school, that's your homework. Because it's
That's a very good
self-learning, right?
strategy. Exactly.
And it gets you out the spot. Okay,
Right.
so over to the next question. So about your assistant role, were you more of an assistant or more of a solo teacher? I mean, how did you feel about either?
Mm. So under the JET program, you're specifically supposed to be doing team teaching classes, so TT
Mm.
class. But right off the bat, once I arrived at my school, they told me right away that okay, what you're going to be doing is you are not going to be the assistant. You are going to be acting as the lead teacher, the main role,
Wow.
teacher one.
Wow.
So
Was that your
initially it
first
was a
week?
bit,
In your first week?
yeah. I actually remember during my first class, so they told me, okay, make an introduction about yourself, introductory slides, tell the kids about yourself. So I was like, yeah, okay, that's easy to do. So I come into class, my first class, very genki, very excited. I tell them about myself, and then my my JT comes up to me and she's like, okay, good job. Now please proceed to the lesson. I'm like, I don't have anything prepared because I didn't know that that's what was going to be expected of me.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah,
Did you have much of a background
uh,
in teaching before coming to Japan? Were you a teacher?
right. So prior to Japan, I did teach. I did have prior teaching experience.
Oh, nice.
For a little while, I was doing online teaching for this school that teaches business English to Japanese, salarymen and salarywomen.
Yeah. Oh,
But at
wow.
the same time, I also did almost a year and a half at the university as a visiting instructor.
Oh, wow. In the Philippines.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Wow. What were you teaching in the university, if I can ask?
yeah, surprisingly, I was teaching Japanese.
Oh,
So
brilliant!
prior to actually living in
Yeah,
Japan as a jet, I did an exchange student program when I was way much more younger than I am now.
yeah,
So I did learn a bit of Japanese. So I was expected to teach just the very basics of Japanese, like "Ohayo gozaimasu, konnichiwa, genki desu ka?" Just
yeah,
those basic things.
yeah.
So
But that was
yeah,
going to be my next question. Like, did you speak any Japanese before you came? But wow, it sounds like you did. So I mean, you
yeah,
were kind of put
just a
on the
bit.
spot, but not as much on the spot as people that have had no prior like teaching experience. Like
Yeah,
you could wing it. You could do
I
something.
do feel that worked to my advantage
Yeah,
in a lot of ways because I feel like so again initially I was not very comfortable with the idea of being the head teacher because that wasn't what I signed up for. That's not
yeah,
what I understood the job to be
yeah,
like.
yeah. Yeah,
But then I think
exactly.
as time as time went on, I kind of realized that it was more of a good thing, kind of turning a negative into a positive. I was like, okay, I actually have control of what I'm doing. So I might as well, make the most of it. And I actually enjoyed that role more of actually
Yeah.
creating a curriculum, engaging with the students, and doing something.
It was a good thing. Did you say something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like turning something that I saw as a negative to a positive.
Mm,
Because again, initially it wasn't what I signed up for, but
mm,
I kind of just went with it and said, okay, I'm gonna make the most of this because I already do like teaching, so I'm
mm.
gonna take uh, the reins and just lead the classes the way I want to do things. So, but if that means designing the curriculum the way I want it to be, teaching the class the way I want to be teaching, then you know
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
do that. And if they complain, I'll be like, hey,
You told me
you
to
give me
do
this
it.
responsibility, so
Yeah,
you
yeah,
follow my
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
follow my rules.
Yeah. I often find, I mean, I speak to so many ALTs, and there's a real divide. I mean, this is something that divides teachers on. Some love the situation of being the only teacher or having their JT maybe in the class,
Mm,
sometimes in the class, sometimes not in the class. They love this. It gets their professional ability higher. They get some really, really good experience. Or they remain teachers for 10, 20, 30 years as ALTs, or they transition to teachers elsewhere. But then there are other teachers who say that other comment, this wasn't what I signed up for. I'm not to do this. And the JTs are demanding, they're saying, do this. And that's not my job title. That's not my responsibility. And they completely dislike it, like really, really strongly. So, I mean, I
mm,
sit on that fence. I think it's a great opportunity and great for the children to have
right.
the
Yeah.
opportunity to kind of broaden their horizons. Let's put it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a divide I
I
see.
think that yeah, I think that was also kind of what was on my mind at the time. Like, I was thinking, okay, if I'm being put into this position, what new what's something that I can bring to the table that they might not have experienced in the past,
Yes, and
And
that's what we're
so
going
I
to
think
come on
maybe
to in a
later on we can
second.
discuss. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. So
I've
I
got
wanted to
one.
make sure that I.
Sorry,
Sorry.
please continue.
No, so yeah, I wanted to make sure that I kind of claimed ownership to what I wanted to be doing in class, and at the same time, I wanted to be sure that I was being my own advocate.
Mm,
So I wanted to be teaching things that I thought would be of relevance to the kids, and of importance to the subject that they were learning.
mm,
So yeah, I tried to do things that which I felt would be creative and beneficial.
yes, and we're going to find out about that right now. But just before we do, I want to ask about JTEs. What were your relationships like with the JTEs?
So through my 4-ish years as a teacher in Japan, I worked with a lot of JTEs, so
Yeah.
perhaps around 10 different JTEs.
Okay.
I would say for the most part, I got along with majority of them.
Yeah.
Many of them, like I said, maybe towards the latter half of my stay as well in Japan, they would kind of just take a back seat to class. I would When we would be walking to class, I'd always be known to be telling them, okay, this is what we're doing, and more often than not, they just agree and act as a support,
Yes. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
went along well. I think that was a very good setup.
Yes.
From time to time, I'd have one or two JTEs who really actually took up the role of team teaching. Look, they truly understood the role of team teaching,
Mm,
so they tried to divide the work 50-50.
mm,
And for those few, I really appreciated what they brought to the table, because I felt like we were bringing two different aspects to to the learning and teaching process. I would say I had maybe one or two JTEs who I did not really enjoy teaching
okay.
with.
Yeah.
But it was more of just, again, I tried to not think of it as like something bad, but more of like a challenge, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
something that's a challenge, a learning experience.
A
Because
learning
again, in the
experience. Yes.
workplace setting, yeah, you're not going to be
Yeah.
able to work with people that you get along with all the time, right?
Exactly. And I
So
think
yeah,
that's
it's
the biggest thing in any business in any industry. I mean, for the
right,
manager, it's people management. I
right,
think in any business, in
definitely,
any industry, anywhere in the world, and it,
definitely,
maybe a little bit more so because we're working with different people, like 5 teachers at this school, then 5 teachers at this school, then 5 teachers at this school on a
right,
continuous. So it's just human relationships and finding out how this person teaches and what they're like in the classroom in a very short space of
right,
time, because there's very little time to discuss, and then just going in there. And I just think that's one of the biggest problems in any industry, in any business, in any country, but definitely so in the ALT's world. But when you get a
yes,
JT that you work with well and you connect with well, it makes a massive, massive difference. And the kids can just see
yes.
that, can't they?
Yes, definitely. And then I yeah, like with the ones that I did get along with very well,
Mm.
again, the ones who would be more proactive in class. I think those were the JTEs who I enjoyed, not just the relationship inside of class, but outside of class. So to this day, we still, remain friends.
Oh wow!
We still sometimes message each other.
Oh,
So yeah, I
fantastic!
think, yeah, if you
Yeah,
find the right people, you can establish lifelong relationships,
yeah, yeah. Are you
friendships.
messaging in English or in Japanese?
Oh no, no, in English all the time.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, Erjo. So let's move on. Before we get to the good, was there anything bad? I mean, we talked about relationships. Was there anything bad about being an LT? You can be as honest or whatever as you like. Any experiences? Any troublesome kids? Maybe.
Hmm. So I mean, like I said, I don't view things as I wouldn't like to say that they were bad things,
Mm,
or of
okay.
just things that I needed to go through as challenges or
Yes. Yes. Yes.
obstacles
Yes.
along the way.
Any challenges? I
I
should use
guess
that word. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess going back to the previous statement I said earlier, there were maybe one or two
Mm,
JTEs who were a bit more hard to deal with.
yeah.
One in particular didn't really have, I guess, the cultural insight, the cultural sensitivity,
Mm.
and would sometimes say things that were out of line or a bit, leaning towards a bit racist. Um, but yeah, again, you just have to sometimes go
Yeah.
go with it, and just like I
Yeah.
would calmly tell her, okay, this is the answer that you're looking
Yeah.
for. If
Yes.
she'd
Yes.
ask me a question,
Yeah.
and yeah, just go along with it. I'm not a very confrontational person, so most of the time it was just me just agreeing to what she says, and then after she leaves, doing my own thing.
Yeah. 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 And with like borderline racist things, you never know if it's like a personality thing or whether it's just a naivety thing or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there was mm,
Yeah, yeah. I
there were some
personally think that
students.
it
Sorry.
was. I would like to think that it was just her being a bit. The teacher was just being a bit naive. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Okay.
aside from that, no, teaching was. I enjoyed teaching. From
Yeah.
time to time, of course, I wouldn't. Maybe we'd have some disagreements with the other teachers I would work with on maybe the curriculum that we wanted to implement, the projects that we wanted the kids to be doing. But again, at the end of the day, it's kind of just respecting each other's opinions and going with where the majority lies, and
Yeah.
just respecting that. And
Okay. I
yeah,
mean, you mentioned curriculum there, and I asked about challenging things in schools, but separately, just for a second, about the curriculum. I mean, schools don't have a choice, right? The Ministry of Education give them the curriculum, and give them the
Mm,
textbooks. It's like the only country in the
right,
world that has a
right,
board of education, a city Ministry of Education that supplies the textbooks, so they have no real choice.
right,
Did you have any?
right.
We're seeping into the next question now. Did you have any real control over the curriculum?
So I think what my school did well was that it tried to be innovative with how it handled, the curriculum.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
what it did was that there was at my school at least there's a very big focus on English language learning. So they would have
yeah.
separate classes with just Japanese teachers.
Mm,
These were called English expressions classes, where
yeah,
they would actually be learning the textbook and they'd be learning, certain grammar points,
mm,
vocabulary points that were present in the textbook. And then when it would come to my turn with my partner, the team teaching classes,
yeah, yeah.
these would be separate classes that would called communication classes,
Okay.
and they'd be its own thing entirely. So we focus on project-based learning.
Yeah.
So what would usually happen is we would get certain maybe grammar points from the textbook or things that they've been learning on the textbook and inject it into a certain project that we'd want them to be doing at that certain time. So say for instance, maybe they're learning about adjectives. It's their first time learning about descriptive words.
Yeah.
The project that we'd attach to that would be maybe like a show and tell sort of thing. Like they bring an apple and they're like, oh, this apple is red, it is shiny, it is mine. So we try to make use of what they're learning through the textbook, but in a more, I guess, in a way that's more student focused, where they have
Okay.
more control of what they do and what they present.
Okay. Okay. Great. So, I mean, the ministry always wants us to use more communicative approaches, and that's a really broad thing. So you really were using like lots of communicative things and ways of of teaching and getting the output out of the students in your classes.
Right.
Fantastic. So you're a wonderful teacher, but you left Japan. So Erjo, the final question, and I've just lost my Google Doc. So oh no, we've got two more questions if that's okay. So were there any particularly memorable experiences when you were working as an ALT? Any particular kind of lessons or projects?
Yeah. So, with project-based learning, the thing that I feel is really most interesting about it is that it's very student-centered.
Mm,
So it's usually us just giving them kind of the framework of what they're supposed to be doing, telling them, okay, this is what we expect you to do, but complete creative freedom is on them. So it's up to them what they want to present to us.
okay.
So some of the memorable projects that we did during my time at school was and well, so some of them were the ones that I made specifically that I was asked to design.
All right.
So
Okay.
my background is in my master's degree. This degree is in international relations.
Right. Yeah.
So I designed a project for Model UN. So they had to discuss a certain topic nowadays that's a bit topical,
Yeah. Yeah.
societal issue.
Yeah.
Another thing that I really enjoyed doing was though it wasn't me who made it, there was a project called the Bee Project where we actually bought bees, put it at the rooftop of the school, and we actually had to learn how to handle beekeeping.
Where did you
So
get the
the
money for the
kids
funding
kind of
for that?
the school there was a specific request for that specific project, I think, and the school
Wow,
they
that's
approved it for some
wonderful.
reason.
So were they
Um,
honeybees or I don't know
yeah,
regular bees?
they were honeybees.
Okay.
Yes, honeybees.
Wow.
So we wanted to actually our vision was actually to actually make use of the produce that they would
Mm.
be making, the
Bee
bees would be
making.
making during our school
Yeah. Yeah.
festival. But I guess with Japan, there's a lot of red tape involved, so that didn't
Yeah.
push through.
But wow, that's amazing. I mean, just to get the funding to begin with, but what an idea. I mean, there's
Well,
this.
props to the teacher, Mr.
Yeah.
Williams. He's the mastermind behind the whole project. So
Mm.
props to him.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Wow, what an amazing guy. And there's a kind of meme around the world that like if the bees die, then everything dies. This kind of
I,
so
yeah,
just simple things like that to get in the kid's head, and it's practical too. I mean, that will stay with them forever, and they'll remember that, and where that will lead on to in their individual lives, who knows? But crikey, what a wonderful one! Can we talk about your ASEAN project as well, please, just for a short time?
Right. So basically, when I was asked to do this project, so
Mm.
it's basically called the Country Introduction Project. It's aimed towards first year junior high school students,
Yeah,
and at this point, they're still learning descriptive language.
yeah,
So the whole idea behind it was basically having the kids learn about the different country, learn about its culture, its food, the people, the society, and present that in front as a presentation.
yeah.
But when the task was given to me, I didn't want to just do that simply. So what I did was I kind of played to my strengths. So my
Mm.
master's degree again was in international relations
Yep, yep.
with a focus on Southeast Asia.
Okay.
So I'm really interested in the region of Southeast Asia.
Yeah, yeah.
So I decided to contact the ASEAN Japan Center, which is
Mm.
based in Tokyo, for their
Okay.
assistance. And thankfully, they're very gracious when it comes to actually doing
Mm.
things with different schools in Japan. So they
Oh,
actually
wow.
do a project where they regularly go to different schools to talk
Mm.
about Southeast Asian culture and society.
I never knew.
So
For any ALTs watching this, like, how would they? Can you give them some tips on advice on contacting ASEAN, or just going straight to finding their email address online?
right, like yeah, I think for the ASEAN Japan Center in general, you can find information on their website because
Okay.
they actually have a portal specifically detailing the different visits to schools that they have and the different
Yeah.
works with different schools that they have. But
Wow. Wonderful.
I think in general, if they want to work with a different organization or if they want to collaborate for something in school, just be proactive about it. Look for resources, and
Yeah.
eventually you'll find something.
Mm. But again, it depends on the JTs and the school, I suppose, a lot. But
Yeah,
yeah. So what?
yeah.
How did that? What did that turn into? This ASEAN project?
So yeah, so I think that was kind of the biggest hurdle at the same time. There was a lot of again red tape involved. So initially we wanted it to be a bit more immersive. We
Yep.
were thinking of doing it as a field trip to the ASEAN Japan Center, which again the ASEAN Japan Center they were very much willing to do.
Oh, wow.
But because
Wow.
of time constraints and again a
Mm.
lot of things from the admin side of our school,
Mm.
we kind of had to just shift around the plan
Yeah,
a bit.
yeah, yeah.
So we had it as so what happened was the ASEAN Japan Center they
Mm.
sent us this learning tool called ASEANpedia, which they made
Okay,
specifically for teaching about Southeast Asia to Japanese students. So it
okay.
had all of the things included there: the food, famous tourist spots, clothing, so yeah, as a teaching tool that we could use, so we
Yeah,
use
yeah.
that. They also have an online portal called ASEANpedia, which
Wow.
does a bit more, ups the ante a bit by teaching the language,
Yep,
introducing different Southeast Asian games.
yep.
I can send all this information to you later.
Yeah, please do. Yeah,
Um,
we'll add it to the description at the bottom.
yeah, and yeah. So aside from that, they were willing to actually uh, have an online session with us where they talked a bit more about Southeast Asia, and we had some people from the region to
Yep.
tell them about a bit more about themselves,
Mm,
their experiences here in Japan, and who they are as people,
mm.
to kind of give the kids a bit more understanding of different
Yep,
societies, a bit more understanding of what cultural sensitivity is like,
yep,
and towards that, the end goal was basically research about a country, create a diorama about maybe something that's famous in that specific country,
yep.
and a display board so
Mm,
to display the different information. And then we had this kind of exhibition
mm.
where other kids from other classes would go around to see each presentation, and they make an oral presentation where they talk about the country, answer some questions about the country. So yeah, we tried to kind of
How were the
uh,
countries chosen? Like, did the kids choose their own country, or was it dependent
mm,
on what information was available?
mm. So the first year I did it, I did it my own way. I actually
Yeah.
asked the kids to I wrote down all the 10 ASEAN countries. So there are 10 countries in Southeast Asia. Then I asked them to go up in front and write their names under any of the countries that they visited in the past.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so from that, I kind of grouped them into, okay, so these kids have been in this country. Maybe they have a better understanding of it. So I kind of grouped it into that way.
Okay.
Because of what I did, I think the other teachers I was working with at the time, the JTs especially, they liked the idea. So actually, the year after that, when we implemented the project again,
Yeah.
we went with my idea where you have a specific class doing a specific region. So I did Southeast Asia, another class did Europe, another one did Africa, another one did America. So yeah, we kind of divided it according to continent.
Wow. You really, really, I can't think of anything better than that, like meeting the people firsthand and being so hands-on to get more, I don't know what the word is, internationalized. I'm not a big fan of that word, but more like globally minded, I suppose.
Yeah. Yes.
And like we mentioned before this interview about citizenship studies, and it kind of falls under that umbrella too, knowing what people think and who they are and what their motivations are and what their rights are, I suppose. You can ask those questions.
I think one thing that kind of was the main catalyst of why I wanted to do this project the way I wanted to do it was every time I initially introduce myself, like, okay, I'm Mr. Coscolluela, I'm from the Philippines. I ask them the question, okay, what do you know about the Philippines? And their answer is always just banana, because that's where most of the bananas in Japan come from, and beaches.
Okay.
So outside of that, knowledge it's very limited. So I kind of wanted to expand on that, not just for my country, but in other countries as well.
Yeah.
I wanted them to understand that the world is a big and beautiful place, and
yes.
there's a lot to learn from
Brilliant.
different people.
Thank you so much, Erjo. And before we tie up, like, what are you doing now?
Right. So currently, I'm still working for a Japanese company, but I moved back to the Philippines. I'm working for a Japanese company that it's under human resources, but what they do is actually kind of linked to Southeast Asia as well.
Oh wow!
So the company basically recruits young Southeast Asian professionals, fresh grads, to work for Japanese companies. So right now, I work as the international relations officer. I basically contact different universities and discuss with them how we could collaborate, inviting the students to actually come to the career fair. We have a one-day symposium the day before, which is more of an academic sort of thing for career center professionals to also come in and learn more about how Japanese companies work.
Oh wow!
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm involved in.
Intercultural, stepping into like intercultural areas. Yeah,
definitely.
Oh,
So I'm happy that it still kind of coincides with what I want to be doing.
And that's in line with your master's degree too, I suppose.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. There's a big aspect of it that's very global.
Yeah. That's wonderful. Well, I'm so pleased to have spoken to you, and I'm sure people watching this will get so many ideas, especially with ASEAN and the honeybees, or how to get some budgets to try and push forward than just their textbooks or printing out a worksheet or using Lola Note or something. I'm sure they'll be inspired by this, Erjo. So thank you very much for your time. And
thank you.
You're going to be speaking at Agora, I guess, soon. So we'll see you there.
Sometime next year. Yeah, I have to think of a topic first, though. But I'm pretty sure I'll find something.
You could expand on that ASEAN thing. That was fantastic.
Okay, yeah, maybe that I could do that. Right.
Those guys. So thank you so much. I've taken a whole page of notes here whilst talking to you, and I've been watching this over now, thinking of the questions that I should have asked you that I didn't ask you.
Maybe we can do it another time. Don't worry about it. I can do a second interview if you'd like to.
Nice. Thank you so much, Erjo.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much.